What's up, everybody? My name is Brad, and welcome to week 7. I believe it's 7 of the book report. I'm actually filming this on Sunday. Usually I do it on Saturday evenings. Didn't have time yesterday, so I'm filming it on Sunday, and it's freezing outside. We got a lot of snow this morning, kind of like out of nowhere. I wasn't expecting snow. The roads weren't very good. So, yeah, hopefully that gets melted off pretty quick because I'm not a fan of the snow, really. But we're here to talk about some books, and I didn't read too much last week. I did finish the 2 books I was working on week previous. Didn't start anything new, but I did get those 2 books finished, and we'll talk about those because they were both pretty good. First up, I finished up Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver. This was an excellent read. I really, really enjoyed it. Sad read, depressing read a little bit. I talked about it last week that I was reading it, and I kind of didn't want to read more because at the point in where I was in the book, our main character Demon, he was kind of in a good place, and I didn't want to read on because I just knew something bad was coming his way right around the corner. So that was a strange feeling where I was really enjoying the book. I really loved the book, but I almost didn't want to continue on reading it, if that makes any sense, because I didn't want even worse things to start happening to him because he was in kind of a good place, which that did happen. I don't think that's much of a spoiler. But yeah, this was an excellent book. It really deals heavily with, if you don't know anything about it, the opioid. I always have trouble saying that word. Opioid epidemic in Appalachia. I feel like I don't think it ever says what the time frame is, but I feel like it was late 90s, early 2000s is kind of when this was set. And we're dealing with this young kid. His name is Damon. I don't remember if it ever says his last name. I'm sure it does. I don't remember. But his real name is Damon. Everyone calls him Demon. And then his nickname Copperhead for his last name is because he has kind of red hair like his father did. But he's born into kind of just this terrible life. His dad passes away before he's born. His mom is on drugs, in and out of rehab all the time. There's this abusive relationship with like a stepdad, and then it kind of gets worse from there. I don't want to say what all happens, but he's kind of just born into this circumstance of having a crappy life and bad luck, and really nothing ever goes his way. And as the story continues, things kind of get worse and worse. Like I said, at one point where I got to last week, things were kind of good for him, and then it kind of all falls apart again. Just a kind of a tragic story. It's all based on fiction, but this happens a lot in Appalachia due to the opioid epidemic, which is kind of what this is based off of. I think last week I said it was. So she took inspiration from David Copperfield by Charles Dickens. I think last week I said Shakespeare, not right. Charles Dickens. She talks about it in like the afterword. Kind of was inspired by Charles Dickens's David Copperfield, Demon Copperhead, kind of the same name there. But it was an excellently read. Like I said, it was heartbreaking. It definitely made me tear up at different times. There's one character in here that I really, really hated. If you've read the book, you maybe know who I'm talking about. This character, kind of every time they don't get their way, they cry about it. And if you don't do what they want to do, they say they don't love you anymore, and kind of blame it all back on you. They were a really bad influence on Demon, and I really grew to really hate that character. And they had their own issues too, but the way they influenced and affected Demon really made me upset because it was kind of caused him to spiral somewhat. Not all necessarily to blame on them. Demon had his own part in it as well, but the influence that character had really made me upset. And I did not like that character at all. But the ending was kind of bittersweet. It was kind of made me sad, but yeah, this is excellent. I would highly, highly suggest you check it out. Kind of a slice of life look at what Appalachia was like during that time frame dealing with this epidemic. And I read an article recently where Barbara Kingsolver, she's taken all the proceeds from this book that she got from this book and has donated it to build some sort of facility in Appalachia. Whether I can't remember if it's a rehab facility or like a shelter for young abused women or whatnot, but she's taken all our proceeds to try to help out the community that she wrote about in this book. I know it says she lives in Appalachia now. I don't know if she's from Appalachia, but it feels like she's really embraced this region and wanted to tell the story of people who maybe think they are invisible and don't get seen. And this is kind of dedicated to those people. Tragic, heartbreaking read, excellent read, 5 stars. It won a Pulitzer Prize in, I think, 2023, which was definitely deserving. I want to read more of her work. I might check out Poisonwood Bible from her someday soon, but highly, highly recommend Demon Copperhead if you haven't checked that one out yet. The other book I read, I started last week. I only got a couple chapters into it, and this was Lure by Tim McGregor. I kind of picked this one up on a whim because I came across a read along called Folklore February, where I didn't want to do all the prompts necessarily, but reading a folklore book kind of enticed me last week at the time. So I dug through my stack back here and came up with this one. It's short, it's a novella, it's barely 100 pages. But this one is dealing with this small little fishing village that is isolated. Really, the only way in and out is through the bay on a boat. It's surrounded by mountains on the landward side, and they're pretty much impassable. So really, the only way in and out is through the water. And there's a storm that kind of blows in, and along with it blows in this mermaid creature, and it deals with all the consequences and ramifications of this mermaid appearing in the lagoon in this small little isolated fishing village. I feel like it's set in like not necessarily medieval times, but way before we had any sort of technology. There's no electronics or anything here, just you know men and their harpoons and their nets trying to catch fish, and that's really what the community survives on. But yeah, the mermaid, it kind of deals with folklore, different aspects of what mermaids can do, and it is a horror book, so it gets pretty bloody and violent. So all that was a lot of fun as always. But our main character is this teenager. He's 15, 16 years old. He is the son of like the parish priest in town, and they're kind of like the bottom rung on the social ladder. They kind of have to go around and beg for tithes for food, and he doesn't like doing that. He feels like they're beggars. His mom disappeared when he was younger. No one really knows what happened to her. And then this mermaid comes in and kind of starts entrancing certain people. Certain people want to kill it. Some want to let it go, whatever. But it was a fun little read. Like I said, it's really quick. This is from Tenebrous Press. They put out lots of good stuff, a little small horror publisher. But yeah, if you like mermaids, if you like folklore, I definitely suggest you check this one out. It was a lot of fun. I've read one of Tim's other books, Wasp in the Ice Cream, I believe it was titled. That one was really excellent as well. Yeah, this was fun. Super quick read. Mermaids, lots of violent maulings from the mermaid and stuff like that. So violence in here mixed with some fantastical things. Lure by Tim McGregor was also pretty fun. And then the last thing I'm working on is I'm still listening to the audiobook of Stephen King's Danse Macabre. He's gone into the fiction part of it now, and he's talking about The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson, which is a book I read probably, I don't know, 7 years ago or so. I think I started the channel in 2019, and I read it a year or two before I started the channel, and I thought it was okay. That's probably not a very popular opinion, but I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. It was okay. But listening to King talk about it kind of has put a new lens on the book for me, where I kind of want to go back and reread it. Because at the time, I feel like a lot of it probably went over my head. I was an immature reader. It was right around the time I was getting really heavily back into reading as an adult. And I feel like I didn't fully grasp all the themes and everything that Shirley Jackson was going for. And also, I just watched the Netflix show, the adaptation by Mike Flanagan. And in there, there's ghosts all over the place in that. I didn't think the show was necessarily scary, but it was creepy. But it does have, in my opinion, the best jump scare of all time. If you have watched it, you know what I'm talking about. But there was ghosts all over the place, hiding in the background. So it was like an Easter egg each episode to find all these ghosts. And then I kind of went into the book with that expectation that it was going to be full of ghosts, and that wasn't the case. So I think that was kind of a detriment to my enjoyment of it, because I was expecting something different than what the book really was. But going back to reread it again, knowing what it's about and kind of this new lens that King has been talking about it through, where I'm going to blank on the main character's name, but she's kind of like a narcissist and stuff. I didn't really pick up on that the first time around, and all the themes that Shirley Jackson was kind of going for. So I might reread it again and see if I enjoy it more than I did the first time. But Danse Macabre, it's okay. It's kind of like sitting through a college lecture, like I've said a couple times. I am enjoying it. I've got about 5 hours left in it, I think. It's not my favorite Stephen King thing ever, but it's not bad either. So I'm going to try to finish up Danse Macabre this week. Excuse me. And then what am I going to be reading next? So I've got 3 books. I felt like I talked about these last week too, so I'll be brief on these. 3 books I'm going to start next. So I don't know what order I'm going to start them in, but first I'm going to try to read Beartown by Frederick Bachman. This is about a small little hockey town where hockey's the big thing, kind of like in the American South. High school football and stuff is the big thing. Hockey's the big thing in this town. I think their team is like either in the playoffs or in the championship game coming up. And then there is this murder that happens. Because I did read the first page a while back when I bought the book, and it's got a killer opening line, which I want to read to you all really quick. Late one evening toward the end of March, a teenager picked up a double-barreled shotgun, walked into the forest, put the gun to someone else's forehead, and pulled the trigger. That's like an excellent hook to the book. Like, I was already kind of excited for the book, but reading that opening line made me even more excited. So I'm going to be picking up this one and starting this one sometime this week. And then also, since it is Black History Month, I do want to read something by a Black author. Shouldn't just hold that to February. Read Black authors all throughout the year, but I do want to try to read something in February. So I've got 2 books. I'd like to finish them both. I'd love to finish them both in February. We'll see if that happens, but I definitely at least want to start and finish one of these, hopefully both. But first one is Salvage the Bones by Jesmyn Ward. This one is about a hurricane that comes in and just threatens, I'm assuming really messes up this little town in Mississippi. I don't know if it deals that much with the hurricane itself or more so the aftermath of what is left over after the hurricane. I've read one of her other books, Sing Unburied Sing. I really love that one, so I want to read more from Jesmyn. And then also I want to read The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. All I really know about this one is it is about a young Black girl, and I think she believes she's kind of ugly and she wants to be beautiful like the little white girl with blonde hair and blue eyes. And other than that, I don't really know much about it. I'm assuming she has this obsession of looking like this other girl and see what happens from there. But I want to read this one, The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. Those are 2 that I would like to start this week, maybe, but definitely by the end of this month at some point. And really, I think that's it. I think that's all I've got to talk about. We're post Super Bowl this week. We did watch the Super Bowl last week. The game itself wasn't that exciting, but I was so happy that the Chiefs lost the Super Bowl. Even though it was a blowout, the final score doesn't really reflect how not close the game was at all. So I was happy about that. Seeing Mahomes lose made me pretty happy. But the game itself wasn't that exciting. The halftime show was pretty good. I think it went over a lot of people's heads. But I do like Kendrick. He's not my favorite artist, but I like him. So it's fun to see him do the halftime show, which was basically just a big Drake diss at the end of it. But anyway, I'm starting to ramble now, so I think I'll leave you all with it. So that's all I've got for you guys today. Let me know what you're reading or planning to read this week down in the comments below. I appreciate you hanging out with me, spending your time with me. Again, my name is Brad, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.